£7 million fund will support independent film and screen content made in every corner of this country so to export to markets around the world. And here with more details is Culture Minister and a Conservative MP, Caroline Dinenage, who joins me now. Minister, now, is this fresh finance, fresh money? I heard we already heard about it. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. It's Dinenage, actually.
Dinenage, my apologies.
You make me sound so much more glamorous than I am. Thank you.
I could have gone for Dinenage, if you like. If I'd been Nigella, you'd have been Dinenage. But
I'd love it. But let's just stick with boring old Dinenage, shall we?
Yeah.
Yes. So £7 million fund, which, as you know, we've got the Oscars coming up this weekend. You've said it, and as ever, we've just such a raft of great British talent nominated, both from in front of the screen and behind the camera, and good high hopes for Oscar this weekend. But we always do. We just punch above our weight globally in film, in TV, in gaming, and in animation. And so this money's all about helping UK film and screen to export to markets around the world to boost that.
Okay, how do people get their hands on it then? How is the cash made available?
Well, it's going to be grants. We're releasing the details of the first part of the grant, which is the ability to be able to export production to markets around the world today. But there's three parts to this. There's the export part. There's the bit that helps them to do the business development, and then there's the co-production, which is really interesting because if you look at The Father, which is a movie that's just won 2 BAFTAs, a UK-based independent production, up for 6 Oscars this weekend. That's actually an Anglo-French production, and so we really do want to be able to encourage those sort of collaborations in the future as well. This is so important for our economy. Prior to COVID-19, UK independent film spent over £200 million on production and creates so many jobs and so much benefits for the UK economy. We just want to be able to promote them to flourish and to take advantages of all the opportunities globally.
Looking at events this weekend, Minister, which film do you think should be Best Picture?
Well, it's got to be one of the British ones, hasn't it? It's got to either be The Father or Promising Young Woman. That's where my money would be.
Okay. Looking forward to other events and indeed other awards. The Brits will be taking place at the O2 next month, and I believe 4,000 people will be going. As Culture Minister, how will they be socially distanced, Minister?
Well, they won't be, and this is the whole point. This is part of, so the Brits is going to be, it's very exciting. It's part of our experiments, our pilots, which are all about working out how we bring back live events, theatre, sport, and indeed live music. As we go through the roadmap, and so the Brits is one of these events. People will have to test before they go. They'll have to test afterwards. And it will all help us gather the information we need on how we get live events back up and running and what mitigations we might need to be able to do that.
But I'm confused. So that's for next month, yet the restrictions as regards the number of mourners at funerals stays in place until June. You are, of course, a full minister within the Health Department as well. That can't be right. 4,000 people who don't know each other dancing the night away at the O2. I can't go to sadly she died last year, but I wouldn't be able to go possibly to my aunt's funeral.
Well, I'm very sorry.
No, it was last year, don't we moved on. But for other folk, why?
No, I completely understand that.
Good, so what are you going to do about it?
Well, of course, these are just, as I say, these are experiments, these are trials, these are pilots, and they're very carefully monitored with people testing beforehand and testing afterwards. But more broadly on your point about funerals, I completely agree. I think my heart broke. I don't know about you when I watched the Queen sitting there
You'd have
alone.
Needed a heart of stone not to have been moved by that.
And we know that just is replicated around the country every single day.
So I ask again, that's until June. So obviously you're in agreement. So will you be picking the phone up to the Prime Minister or to, I don't know, Matt Hancock later today? Say, come on now, we need to review this. You will be picking up the phone.
Well, of course, we completely understand how people feel. It's dreadful, and we continue to look at how we can make it easier for people through the roadmap. And of course, the next stage of the roadmap will be announced soon, which will be the path in May.
Please God, there will be Brit Awards in 2021, 2022, 2023. In some instances, you only get one opportunity to say goodbye to Grandma. Why don't you act on this now?
Well, because we've worked so hard as a country to get through this pandemic. We have. People have suffered dreadfully during this lockdown. We need to get this right. We can't throw it all away now.
Right.
The Brits it's a one-off event, and it's all about making sure we have the evidence to be able to reopen.
So's a funeral, Grandma, by the way. You don't often bury her twice, do you, when you think about it, Minister?
But what you have to, of course you don't, and I completely understand that. But what you have to remember is, do you remember last year when things began to reopen? Suddenly there were worries about, the potential worries about singing and about music and about what sort of potential they could have on transmission. We want to make sure that all that science is done now before we get to that point of the roadmap, because we're talking about people's jobs and livelihoods right across the UK.
So you can sing at the O2, but you can't sing Jerusalem in a church. It just seems strange to me at a few.
Well, no,
okay, lastly, let's move on the last subject. Maybe a couple of questions. Is Dominic Cummings leaking number 10 texts?
Well, I've got absolutely no idea, but I do know the Cabinet Office are launching a leak inquiry about this.
And will the person or persons be likely to face prosecution?
Well, you wouldn't expect. I don't think you could really genuinely expect me to comment on this too much further. But I do know that the Cabinet Office are looking into it, and they'll make more announcements in due course, I'm sure.
Here's to a British victory on the weekend, as you rightly said on the Oscars. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Caroline Dinenage is Culture Minister and Conservative MP. 3 minutes after 8. News is next. Thomas Watts.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.